Good morning, my beloved friends. This is Master Healer Meade Neumann with Renewed Spirit Healing. And obviously, although this is an episode of Notes from the Garden, this is not in my garden because it's winter and it's cold. And because right now I'm going to stay warm. But today's, we'll call it an episode because why not? I wanted to talk about foundational structures because I found myself getting ready to leap into an activity and suddenly thought about all the preparation that I hadn't done. And as I'm sitting at my desk and my view is out the window directly towards my garden, I began to think about one of the wonderful gifts that winter gives us for a garden and for our lives in general. And that is the benefit of looking at an area without the growth over top of it to disguise what we're looking at. So it gives us a chance to look at the structures that we have put into place without being confused by other visions, other concepts. And this can be really, really important and really self-serving. But also it gives us a place to really examine what do we have the foundations created for? What directions do we want to go in? What directions do we not want to go in? One of the things that I did last year in my garden was I used some cut bamboo stakes to serve as edges for my beds, basically. This is an area where this bed is, this is an area where this bed is, and in between is an area where I can walk. Just makes a visually easy representation so that the brain says, here's a place for growth, here's a place not for growth. And one of the things that I figured out very quickly was that I didn't like the way that I had set up my beds. Unfortunately, by that time, I'd already planted things. And I had done that thing that I was just talking about. I had leapt into action without thinking about how those foundational structures were going to support growth or how they were going to support maintenance. And that's a really different concept. You know, when you're looking at a garden and you're trying to figure out what do you want to grow where, how big is it going to get, how wide is it going to get, what do you need to do between the time that you plant the seed or you plant the seedling and you harvest the thing, whatever the thing is, it could be fruit, vegetable, herb, whatever. What kinds of activities are you going to need to do to get into that space? Is it something that you just let it go? You just let everything grow in there and then you eventually pull out the things you want? Well, that really doesn't, it works, it is a method, but the energy that goes into that space is going to be diffused into many things that grow instead of just the things you want to grow. So the things that you want to grow won't be the beneficiaries of that energy that you're putting in as completely. And that's where you can take that concept and then put it into your life. If you are getting ready to do a big project, and it's one of these projects that's going to take a while, whether it be classes, the way you work, you know, your career, maybe you're writing a book, anything that takes more than just a couple of days, then look at the kinds of energy commitments that it's going to take. Look at the kinds of time requirements that it's going to take. And you have to meet yourself where you are because it's pointless not to. If you are someone who does not do well in the mornings, that'd be me, and you require that you get yourself up at 6 o'clock in the morning, you're likely to have 3-4 hours in the morning where you are not productive, not happy, you are sabotaging yourself. If, on the other hand, you meet yourself where you are and you create this lovely evolutionary meeting place. For myself, there are very few mornings that I require myself to get up very early. And when I do, it's with the honest understanding that I have 2 to 3 hours to wake up, get my coffee, welcome the day, get my journaling done, and I'm not required to do anything outside of me activities for that first 2 to 3 hours. Then I can go do the things. But that allows me to meet myself where I'm at and to do so peacefully. Why do we have to fight ourselves? If you go out and you have a war in your garden every day and you spill blood and you rake up the soil and you dig into it and you break the growth, you're not going to grow things. You're going to destroy things over and over and over again, and then you're going to be frustrated that you're putting this huge amount of energy into a space and not getting the results you want. Same goes with your body and with your life. If you go to war with yourself, you will disturb a great number of things. You may break apart a great number of things. But until you can find a way to meet yourself in peace and build your foundations, you won't grow anything that you appreciate. So, the winter is a good time to, yes, go internal, look at those deep dives inside, but then bring those deep dive treasures back up to the light and see how they apply to moving forward. How could you use this piece of knowledge that you have garnered as a gift? If you don't work well in the mornings, do you work well at nights? Are you willing to focus certain energies at night and not in the day? If you work well with plants, but you don't work well with people, are you willing to work with plants? These are the things. When you find the pieces of yourself that perhaps you are less familiar with, can you find a means of accepting them and integrating them into how life is in a lovely way? In a garden, if we come across a huge boulder that is not capable of being moved, can you create something that appreciates that boulder? Is that an anchor point for a corner? Or is it a place that you can put a fountain or some potted plants? Or, there are 1,000 things that you can do with an opportunity when you recognize that it's an opportunity. And there is nothing you can do when you simply see something disgusting and disharmonious in your life and are not willing to interact with it. So, my challenge to you is to go ahead and do those deep dives that you're feeling called to, when you're feeling called to. Give yourself some breathing time in between. It's just like cycles. You got to have some time when it rains and sometimes when it's nice and sunny. Sometimes when everything freezes over and sometimes when it all melts. So go ahead and take those deep dives, but then bring them back up to the light. Check out your foundational structures and see how do they apply and how do they need to be tweaked for this coming cycle of growth. And if what I'm saying appeals to you, then I have a couple of suggestions for you. For one thing, I am beginning to realize that I'm a whole lot more like a radio station and a whole lot less like a standard therapist. So if you like these kinds of broadcasts and you want these kinds of informational sessions to keep coming out, then I'm going to encourage you to donate to my page. You can find me on Facebook. Facebook is Renewed Spirit Healing. You can find me on my webpage, www.renewedspirithealing.com. In the product section, there's a thing called Keep the Dream Alive, and that is my donation button. Or you can find me on PayPal and send a donation there at Renewed Spirit. But yes, if you would like to be a sponsor and you want me to start throwing in key things, kind of like the radio announcers do, that this broadcast is brought to you by such and you should go check out their products, then you might want to get in touch with me, because I am just now starting to develop a new sponsorship program, and you can have some input into what kinds of sponsorship donation levels get what kind of sponsorship donation gifts. So, aside from that, if you are an individual that wants to book a session, you can also find that information at the same places: the website, www.renewedspirit.com, on Facebook at Renewed Spirit Healing, and I am on Instagram, although I think I'm at Meade Neumann on Instagram. But you can set up a session, you can give me a call, you can reach out to me, and if there's a kind of an issue that you would like me to discuss, I would love to hear about it. So, until then, I hope that the light's blessings seep into you and restore you to a beautiful and fantastic, balanced health between mind, body, and spirit. Blessed be.